Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about the importance of using consistent technique and consistent range of motion if you want to program your training correctly or be able to track your overload. So let me put on my +5 out of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. Now, what I want to clarify up front when I say this, I'm not saying that this is a requirement. I'm not saying you have to do this to make good gains. What I am saying is that it will allow you to ensure that you're programming your training carefully. It will allow you to ensure that you are progressing in your overload. Because if you have no way to actually track how much work you're doing, how much tension your muscles are getting, things like that, you are playing guesswork. You are going to be playing with rate of perceived exertion and perceived fatigue. And that's going to be the only cues you have, instead of saying, hey, did I actually lift more weight for more reps? Did I do more volume? Did I do more workload? How much weight did I actually lift? Did I improve from where I was a month ago? Because without this, you don't have a way to do that. And I saw something this morning, and this is the second time I've seen this particular young man train. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, why are you watching other people in the gym? Well, I got to do something between sets. I rest at least 3 minutes between sets, if not more. I lift heavy. I train almost exclusively with low reps. I don't do more than 5 reps on my gym lifts these days. I do some stuff at home that's maybe higher rep, chin-ups and things. I'm at the gym to train heavy. I'm there to gain strength. I have a lot of time to watch people. Sometimes I talk to people, sometimes I don't. There are people I have conversations with where we don't talk about training because they're regular people I see regularly, I chat with, things like that. But a lot of times with these younger guys, unless they come over and ask me a question, and they frequently do, I don't interrupt their workouts. But I can use this as a learning example. Because the other day I watched this young man doing standing presses, the same day I was doing shoulder presses. Obviously I had a bit more weight than him on the bar. But he was leaning way back and doing partials like this standing. He would stop around his chin and he would skip the lockout. He was just doing the mid-range. A young guy, not particularly strong, still looks like he's trying to gain muscle. I don't know, he's probably about 160 pounds or so, average height. Obviously still trying to make his Newt gains. But, you know, he was using about 115 pounds on that. And I just observed it then. Well, today is my floor press volume day, so I had a lot of sets to do. All my work sets, my ramping sets, everything else. So I was there a while. Watched this young man do a full back workout. You know, he did 2 different exercises. He did standing barbell rows and he did rack pulls. The thing I noted, and this is something that you guys may not think about, when you have an exercise where you do not do the full range of motion or you do sloppy reps, you don't actually know if you put more tension on the muscle or not when you change weights. Because I watched this young man add weight every set. He did a pyramid up. Didn't count the exact plates he had on. When he started, I don't know, 115, 120 pounds. And he was adding weight. He was doing whatever, 5 to 8 reps. But I noticed on his first work set, he was skipping the bottom. He started at about a 45-degree row, and he didn't come all the way down. In other words, he would pull, but he didn't come down to here. He didn't lock it out. He had a lot of bend in the elbow. It was a partial. Now, I tell people to do pendlay rows off the floor to eliminate this, because there's no guesswork as to the range of motion is there. Touches the floor, and you reset, or it doesn't. You know, Dr. Mike says the same thing even as a bodybuilder. And I'm not a bodybuilder. I'm concerned with gaining strength. He's concerned with gaining muscle. He says the same thing. He rows from the floor for that reason. That way he can actually track his overload. He knows how far he moved the weight. There's no guesswork. Well, if you're skipping the bottom, you don't know how far you're moving the weight. But here's the thing. This kid added about 10 pounds to every set over a course of about 3 sets. So he must have done around 4 sets, give or take. Again, I just saw what I did between going to the fountain while I was chilling and not doing my sets. I saw about 4, and he increased the weight on every set that I saw. He kept adding, 5 to each side. Well, what do you think happened? Every set that he added weight on, do you think he used the same form? No. He got a little higher. By the time he had added about 30 pounds, he had started at about 45 degrees. He was almost standing upright by the time he got to his heaviest set. And since he didn't start off the floor, he didn't even start off the floor. He had it in a rack where he was going to do his rack pulls. He did them out of a rack. Didn't even touch the rack on the way down, but as he went, he shortened the range of motion. He got more upright. Well, what do you think happens as far as back recruitment goes as you get more upright with every set? Because you're thinking, man, I'm adding weight. So a lot of people do. But you're creating less tension on the lats. It gets easier. Your traps get more work, but your lats get less work. Well, I can tell you most people aren't rowing as primary trap exercise. They're probably trying to build their lats, biceps, and all sorts of other muscles. But usually lats and rear delts tend to be a high priority, with traps being a consideration. But the higher you go, the less lat you use and the more trap you use, and the easier it gets. Also, what do you think happened with his range of motion? It got shorter. He had a higher degree of arm bend at the bottom of every rep as the weight went up. Then he did rack pulls. No idea how to do those either. But here's the point. When you're doing exercises like this, it becomes difficult to track. This is one reason it's very difficult to program weighted body weight exercises unless you are very careful. You see guys do this all the time. They'll do weighted pull-ups. And you know what? My stance changed on this. At one time, guys, it said you're not quite locking out of the bottom of your weighted pull-ups. The ones I had up a long time ago where I was cranking out a bunch of reps with like 55-pound change or whatever I had. I don't even remember what I had on camera. It was a couple years back when I was living abroad. And you know what? I'm like, well, it doesn't matter. I'm still getting the tension. But no, people are right. Because it's harder at the bottom. You're getting a better stretch at the bottom. And if you're skipping the bottom when it gets harder, when you start adding more weight on the weighted chin up, what happens? You tend to short stroke reps more and more. Are you really doing more work? Are you? Because if you're taking out the harder parts of a range of motion and you take an extra inch out every time you increase the weight, you're only working the mid-range, the easiest part. Are you really creating more tension? Are you really getting more muscle fiber recruitment? Not necessarily. So we're shortchanging ourselves. And we could argue, well, it doesn't matter if you're still getting fatigue. Fatigue is fatigue. That's true for overall hypertrophy. But how do you track if you're progressing? Because if your range of motion is inconsistent, and that tends to be a problem with things like chin-ups and dips. They're great exercises if you do a consistent range of motion, a consistent amount of forward lean on the dip, a consistent amount of where you put your legs on a chin-up. They're a great exercise. But you can't program them properly without doing those things. Because you don't know how you're progressing. You have no way to ensure your progression. You can't fully periodize things. All you have is feel. And that's not the best way to do things. Not everyone is capable of doing that effectively. So that's the problem we run into. And the same thing, people start doing rows or curls, and they do cheat curls. Things like pressing and things are easier to do. Deadlifts, any sort of chest press, a lot of tricep exercises, it's harder to cheat. And it's easier to judge your range of motion. So people tend to do slightly better on those. I'm not saying always on bench press. They tend to. Things like curls, things like rowing, chinning, dips. People have a hard time with this because they allow so much cheating, and because it's easy to just skip part of the range of motion because of the way weights hang, people don't quite do the bottom of some of these lifts. And when you do that, when it gets harder, you start going higher each time. In other words, you don't go down, and you start taking inches out more and more of the range of motion, and you can't feel that you've done it because you don't have a hard lock or any way to assess it at the bottom. Like if you don't lock out all the way at the bottom on a row, you don't stretch all the way at the bottom of a chin up, you don't have a way to assess, did I do more? Did I do the same as I did with the lighter weight, or did I do 1 inch less? Did I do 2 inches less? Did I do 3 inches less? You have no way to track it. That's a problem. It's a problem for consistency. Because here's the thing, at the end of the day, I don't care what goal you're chasing. I don't care whether your goal is aesthetics. I don't care whether it's strength. Well, I care. But in terms of this, it doesn't matter. The most important thing is consistency and consistent improvement in workload over time. That is how you gain muscle. That's how you gain strength. That's how you gain stamina. All of these things that we train for, that's how we gain them. By long-term consistency. I mean, you even get out of shape by consistency, right? By consistently eating like crap and consistently not exercising, that's how you get out of shape. Well, with training, same effect. Consistency is everything. It is what allows you to assess your progress, predict it, and program for it, and ensure progress. Without that, all you have is feel and instinct. And not everyone can effectively do those things. Any person can effectively track something that's consistent. Anyone who can do basic math. Not everyone can do the other. In fact, I'll say the vast majority can't do it. The vast majority of people can never even do RPE effectively. So by training in this way, using bad form, using cheating, inconsistent body position, inconsistent range of motion, we lose the ability to objectively assess our performance and our overload. And it's something to think about. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.